Our people are broken! We need a king now!
Will you fight when Allah commands? Allah has chosen Talut.
Talut? He's not a king!
Allah chooses, not men.
The river is your test!
We're dying of thirst!
Obey Allah or turn back! No one can defeat Jalut!
Allah is enough for me.
History was about to change.
Usually when we talk about a medical diagnosis, there's this expectation of absolute precision, right? It feels like engineering almost.
Oh yeah, very mechanical.
Right, like you break your arm, the x-ray shows that jagged white line on the screen and the doctor just points at it and says, well, there it is. That's the problem.
It's totally binary. I mean, it's either broken or it's not. And we find a tremendous amount of comfort in that kind of visibility, Human beings just naturally gravitate toward problems that can be neatly categorized and visually confirmed.
Yeah, but then you step out of the clinic and into the world of human psychology or into crisis management or leadership under immense pressure, and suddenly that x-ray machine is just utterly useless.
Completely useless, yeah.
We're looking at a behavioral landscape that is incredibly murky. I mean, you can't just take an x-ray of human courage. You can't put someone in an MRI machine to measure their sincerity or their capacity to endure suffering.
Which is the absolute definition of diagnostic muddy waters. The internal mechanics of human resolve are invisible until they are tested. And often by the time that test actually arrives, it is far too late to fix the structural weaknesses.
Exactly. And navigating that exact murky landscape is our mission for you today. We are taking a journey into a profoundly rich, ancient narrative from Islamic tradition. We're examining a story that strips away the mythic Hollywood gloss of ancient battles and zeroes in on the raw and often really uncomfortable realities of human nature.
It's a very grounded narrative.
It really is. We are exploring the historical account of the children of Israel, Bani Israel, the unexpected King Talut, the terrifying commander Jalut, and a humble young man named Dawud, whom many in the West know as David. But rather than just recounting a famous victory, the source text we're unpacking today offers a deeply philosophical, almost psychological lens on leadership, the true nature of power, and how human beings actually navigate overwhelming odds.
Right, because the architecture of the ideas here is what we are really after. We are looking at a text that operates like a psychological blueprint. And just to be clear on our parameters for today, we are examining religious texts and theological ideas, but we are doing so entirely impartially.
Right, very important point.
Yeah, the objective here is not to endorse a specific religious viewpoint or to take a side in any theological debate. We are here to thoroughly explore the philosophical, historical, and moral framework contained in this original source material and to extract the insights that apply directly to the human condition.
Okay, let's unpack this, because setting the scene here is crucial to understanding everything that follows. We are looking at Bani Israel, after the time of Prophet Musa or Moses. And if you want to visualize the backdrop for this, imagine a landscape of ancient star charts, sweeping desert cityscapes, and the dust of ancient battlefields. But the social reality of this nation is that while things are falling apart, they're in a state of profound crisis.
They really are. The source text describes a period of severe weakness, fear, and humiliation. And what is vital to understand here is the trajectory. This is a nation that, historically speaking, had previously witnessed massive, undeniable miracles.
Oh, absolutely.
They had this foundational narrative of liberation and divine support, but time has passed. And with the passing of generations, the text outlines a classic sociological decay. I mean, they became internally divided, and they neglected the very divine commands and ethical frameworks that had previously unified them.
And when a society fractures internally, it never happens in a vacuum, right?
Yeah.
External predators always take notice. You see this in modern corporate structures and geopolitics, and it's exactly what the text describes happening here. Their enemies didn't just stumble upon them, they actively took advantage of this internal rot.
Yeah, they capitalized on the disunity. The text details how these external forces seized their lands, humiliated the populace, and drove many of them from their homes. I mean, families were violently separated, their collective wealth and infrastructure were stripped away.
Just a total collapse.
A complete collapse of their societal security.
Yeah.
Transforming them from a respected, unified nation into a displaced and fractured people who are now desperately longing for justice and a return to their former glory.
It is the tragic historical arc of losing a golden age to internal complacency. But the narrative makes it clear that despite this humiliating condition, they hadn't been entirely abandoned. they still had a prophet among them to offer guidance. And this brings us to the inciting incident of the entire story.
Right, the demand.
Yes, a group of respected leaders, the elites of Bani Israel, approach this prophet. And they are fired up. Their hearts are burning with grievance, and they make a very specific structural demand. They say, give us a king.
They want a centralized figure of authority. They're asking for a king to unite their fractured tribes so that they can fight in the cause of Allah against those who had oppressed them and reclaim their stolen lands. And on the surface, if you are analyzing this politically, it sounds like a noble, righteous, and highly strategic request.
It makes total sense on paper.
It does. They recognize their disunity, they want to end their oppression, and they're volunteering to fight for justice.
But the prophet's reaction is where the text first completely flips our expectations. He doesn't applaud their initiative at all. He pushes back immediately, questioning the very core of their sincerity. He asks them, would you perhaps refuse to fight if fighting were prescribed for you?
What's fascinating here is he is poking at the psychology of comfort versus crisis. The prophet understands something fundamental about the human heart, particularly hearts that have been conditioned by prolonged division and a baseline of victimization.
Right.
He's forcing them to confront the reality that speaking about fighting oppression rhetorically and physically enduring the horrors of war are two entirely different universes of experience.
I look at this and I see the ultimate example of armchair quarterbacking, which is a flaw that is just so deeply baked into human nature. I mean, think about how we operate today. It's 11:59 p.m. on New Year's Eve. You are sitting on your comfortable couch in a climate-controlled room eating a slice of pizza, and you announce to everyone, I am running a marathon this year.
Oh yeah, the classic New Year's resolution.
Right. You're like, I'm going to wake up at 4 a.m. I'm going to conquer the miles. I am going to endure the pain. It is incredibly easy to demand sacrifice of yourself to talk a big game when you are sitting in absolute safety and the threat or the pain is purely abstract.
Building on that marathon idea, the initial commitment is entirely romantic. You are in love with the idea of crossing the finish line, the applause is the medal. What you are not envisioning is mile 18 in the freezing rain when your joints are screaming and every biological instinct is begging you to stop.
Exactly.
The prophet is basically asking these leaders, are you in love with the romantic idea of victory and revenge, or are you actually prepared for the brutal, unglamorous reality of the sacrifice required to achieve it?
It really makes me wonder if the text is implying that human beings are fundamentally flawed at predicting their own capacity for courage. Like, we seem to have a massive blind spot when calculating our future resilience.
The text strongly suggests that humans are highly susceptible to self-deception when projecting their own resolve. We mistakenly base our future projections of courage on our current feelings of anger or grievance, and the leaders in the story demonstrate this perfectly.
They really do.
They answer the prophet's skepticism with absolute unwavering confidence. They say, of course we will fight. We've been driven from our homes. We've been separated from our children. How could we not fight?
They are using their trauma as a guarantee of their future bravery. They think because they have been hurt, they will automatically be brave.
And that is the psychological trap. They genuinely believe that their righteous anger over the injustice committed against them is a sufficient fuel source to sustain a military campaign. But the text is setting up a premise that echoes throughout this entire narrative. Emotional grievance is not a substitute for spiritual discipline.
That's a great way to put it.
Anger is an excellent spark, right? It can start the engine, but it is a terrible fuel. It cannot sustain a fire through the freezing night of a protracted struggle.
So despite the prophet's warning, their request is accepted. A king is going to be appointed to lead this campaign. And this brings us to a moment that just totally exposes the deep hypocrisy of the ruling class. Allah reveals to the prophet that a man named Talut is going to be appointed as their king. Now, logically, these leaders who were just begging for a commander to unite them should be ecstatic. They got exactly what they asked for.
Logically, yes. But sociologically, the announcement caused an immediate uproar. And the friction occurs because Talut completely shatters their established mental model of what authority is supposed to look like.
He doesn't have the resume they were expecting.
He lacks the superficial markers of success. He is not from the wealthy aristocratic families. He doesn't possess the traditional royal lineage that the elites use to gatekeep the power. Their reaction is instantaneous and highly defensive. They challenge their prophet, saying, how can Talut have authority over us when we have more right to kingship than he does, and he has not been given abundant wealth?
It is stunning.
Oh.
They just asked for a king to lead a desperate, holy struggle for their very survival, and the moment a leader is provided, they audit his bank account.
Yes, exactly.
They're facing an existential threat from external enemies, and they are pausing the resistance to complain about the new king's social class.
This exposes a timeless societal flaw, one that is highly relevant to how we structure our organizations today. If we connect this to the bigger picture, they are judging human worth and leadership capacity entirely through worldly materialistic metrics.
Right.
They have created a heuristic, a mental shortcut that equates wealth, noble ancestry, and social proximity to power with the actual ability to lead in a crisis.
We do the exact same thing today. I mean, if you look at corporate culture, political campaigns, or even the influencer economy, we constantly mistake superficial status for actual competence. We assume the person with the Ivy League degree, the bespoke suit, the massive follower count, or the generational wealth is inherently wiser or more capable. We use financial success as a lazy proxy for wisdom and strategic brilliance.
And the Prophet is tasked with dismantling this deeply ingrained societal bias. He has to re-educate them on the metrics of true authority. He explains that Allah chose Talut based on fundamentally different criteria. He states that Talut was chosen because he has been blessed with superior knowledge and physical strength.
Knowledge to strategize the war and the physical capacity to actually endure it, like the literal functional tools required for the job at hand.
The text is making a profound argument here about the nature of authority. In the framework of this narrative, leadership is not a VIP privilege handed out to the richest man in the room as a reward for his social standing. It is a massive, heavy trust.
A heavy trust, yeah.
And the Creator measures fitness for that trust through righteousness, wisdom, ability, and competence. Divine authority is granted based on infinite knowledge of a person's internal capacity, completely ignoring human popularity contests and class structure.
But even with that logical explanation, the elites are still resistant. I mean, human pride doesn't just evaporate because a prophet makes a good argument. So the text tells us a miracle is provided to prove this isn't just a unilateral political maneuver by the prophet, and it involves the sacred ark.
The Ark of Bani Israel was an object of immense historical and spiritual gravity for them. It contained precious relics from the family of Prophet Musa and Prophet Harun. Losing it had been a source of deep psychological trauma. So the prophet tells them that as a definitive sign of Talut's divine appointment, angels will miraculously carry this ark back to them.
And it happens. The text describes the angels returning the ark. A literal, undeniable miracle materializes right in front of their faces. This isn't a vague omen, it's a structural impossibility happening in broad daylight.
Right there for everyone to see.
Right. And yet the source material notes that while the sincere believers accepted it, those with weak faith still harbored pride and doubt. For you listening, think about the cognitive dissonance required here. How can someone look a literal miracle in the face and still harbor resentment that the new king doesn't belong to their country club? What is happening in the human brain there?
What's happening is a desperate defense of the ego. Accepting the miracle means accepting that Talut is the rightful king. But accepting that Talut is the rightful king means accepting that the divine metric for value completely ignores wealth and lineage.
Oh, I see.
And if that is true, then the wealth, the lineage, and the social status that these elites have built their entire identities around are suddenly rendered worthless in the eyes of the Creator.
It completely invalidates the hierarchy they sit on top of.
Exactly the point. For a proud individual, letting go of the very metrics that place them at the top of the social pyramid is a form of psychological death. It is far easier for them to cast doubt on a miracle, to find some way to rationalize it away, than to dismantle their own ego and admit they are not as important as they thought they were.
That is so true.
But despite the grumbling, Talut is now the established king. And he has no time to coddle the fragile egos of the aristocracy. He has a monumental, terrifying task ahead of him. He has to take this fractured, complaining, status-obsessed populace and forge them into a military force capable of facing a brutal enemy.
So Talut begins the mobilization, he gathers the troops, and the text makes it clear that the men who answer this call to arms are a very mixed bag. You have a core group of sincere believers who are there for the right reasons, but you also have people driven by personal pride, a desire for vengeance, ambition for glory, or just like the hope of recovering their stolen property.
Right, a very fractured alliance.
Yeah, it is a coalition united by a common enemy, but totally divided by their internal motivations.
And this leads us to one of the most fascinating psychological crucibles in the entire narrative. They begin their march toward the battlefield. The conditions are grueling, they're marching through the desert, the heat is oppressive, their supplies are dwindling, physical exhaustion and severe dehydration are spreading rapidly through the ranks.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because this is where I have to push back on the events of the text from a purely tactical logistical standpoint. They are exhausted. They are severely dehydrated. And before they even catch sight of the enemy army, Talut announces a divine test. He tells his army that they are going to come across a river. However, They are explicitly forbidden from drinking freely from it. They are only allowed to take a tiny amount, just a single handful of water to moisten their throats. Anyone who drinks deeply will be dismissed from the army.
It is a severe limitation on a basic biological need.
It is way more than severe. I mean, it seems tactically suicidal. You are marching a civilian militia to war against a vastly superior professional military force. Your men are dehydrated and exhausted. Why on earth would you test them with the exact physiological resource they need the most to survive the upcoming physical combat?
Right.
It completely contradicts basic military success. If a modern general did this, they would be court-martialed for sabotaging their own troops. You are taking a marathon runner at mile 20, handing them a bottle of water, and telling them they can only lick the cap before running the final 6 miles. You are mathematically guaranteeing a decline in their physical performance.
If you're analyzing this strictly through the lens of materialistic military strategy, calories in, energy out, hydration levels, your objection is flawless. A dehydrated soldier is a weaker soldier. But you have to shift your paradigm to understand the underlying philosophy of this specific text.
Okay.
This is a holy struggle, not a resource war. The river is not a test of hydration. It is a test of submission, discipline, and impulse control.
But isn't physical readiness a prerequisite for discipline in combat? I mean, if your muscles are cramping from dehydration, your discipline won't stop a sword.
The text is arguing that spiritual and psychological discipline supersedes physical readiness. Remember the composition of this army we just discussed. It is heavily populated by men driven by ego, greed, and superficial grievance. The river, both practically and metaphorically, represents worldly desires. It represents the immediate, overwhelming urge to satisfy the self at all costs, regardless of the overarching mission or the command of the leader.
So you're saying that filtering out the undisciplined is worth the cost of physically weakening the remaining soldiers?
It is essential. Consider the reality of the impending battle. If you take an undisciplined soldier, a man who cannot even follow a basic direct command to restrain his own physical appetite when a river is right in front of him, and you put that man on a terrifying, chaotic battlefield facing Jalut, what will he do?
He'll run.
He will break. The moment his survival instinct kicks in, he will abandon the line. He will prioritize his own life over the mission, just as he prioritized his own thirst over the king's command.
A chain is only as strong as its weakest link. And in a kneel wall, a soldier who runs gets the men next to him killed.
The text is making a profound argument about the anatomy of defeat. Those who cannot conquer their own immediate, overwhelming internal urges have already defeated themselves before the enemy even draws a weapon. Purifying the ranks of the undisciplined, even if it means drastically and dangerously reducing your total numbers, provides a greater strategic advantage than fielding a massive, unpredictable army of men who are slaves to their own impulses.
It's the ultimate quality over quantity argument, so they reach the river. The cool water is shimmering in the desert sun. It is the ultimate temptation for a dying, thirsty man. What happens?
The narrative states that the temptation proved too great for the majority. Many of them simply forgot the warning, or their physical craving overrode their faith, or they arrogantly chose to ignore the command. They drank deeply until their thirst was fully satisfied. They placed their immediate personal comfort above obedience to their leader and their creator.
They failed the crucible.
The vast majority of the army failed. Only a small, steadfast fraction of the men remained. They adhered to the command, taking only the permitted handful of water, enduring the lingering pain of their thirst.
It is a staggering, almost terrifying reduction in force. You start with this massive mobilization, and you lose the bulk of your army to a river. They aren't ambushed by Jalut's archers. They are defeated by their own lack of restraint.
But look at the composition of what remains. The small fraction that passes the test emerges fundamentally changed. They have practically demonstrated that they understand success comes through obedience and spiritual endurance, not through indulging every worldly desire. They have proven that internal discipline and absolute trust are weapons far superior to sheer numerical advantage. They are now, and only now, truly prepared for the greater challenge.
And that greater challenge is looming right over the horizon. The remaining disciplined corps crosses the river, leaving the stragglers behind, and they finally get a clear look at what they're up against. They see Jalut's army, and the source text makes absolutely no attempt to downplay how terrifying this enemy is.
Not at all. The descriptions are designed to evoke awe and terror. Jalut's forces are massive. They stretch across the landscape. They are heavily armored, highly equipped, and possess years of brutal battlefield experience. They are an unstoppable imperial machine that has dominated the region, and their commander Jalut himself is described as a physical terror. His reputation, his sheer size, and his brutality are enough to cause the hearts of seasoned warriors to tremble.
For you, the listener, try to visualize this contrast. On one side of the valley, you have Jalut's massive, well-fed, heavily armed professional military complex. On the other side, you have Talut's tiny, dehydrated, physically exhausted remnant of an army. Naturally, the reality of the situation hits them. Fear sets in for some of the believers, and they literally say out loud, "We have no strength to face Jalut and his army today."
Which, if you remove faith from the equation, is a completely rational, mathematically accurate assessment of the battlefield. If you run a tactical simulation on those numbers, Talut's army is annihilated in minutes.
If you are just doing the math, they are dead. But then the most sincere believers among them step up to reframe the narrative. They don't try to argue the math. They remind each other of historical precedent. They say, how many times has a small company overcome a large company by the permission of Allah?
Their confidence is completely detached from their own military strength. They fully acknowledge they don't have the numbers or the weapons. Their confidence rests entirely upon their trust in the promise and power of their Lord. And this leads to what I consider the most critical, instructive moment in the entire narrative. As they stand there facing total annihilation, staring down an army that wants to erase them from history, they don't furiously sharpen their swords. They make a very specific, carefully structured supplication.
The prayer. The text preserves the exact wording of what they asked for in that moment of absolute terror. They said, "Our Lord, pour upon us patience, make our feet firm, and grant us victory over the disbelieving people."
This prayer is a psychological and spiritual masterclass. It raises a fascinating question about how we as human beings ask for help when we are in the middle of a crisis. I want to break down the precise order of what they ask for because the sequence is not random, it is deeply intentional.
Let's dissect it. So, step one of the prayer, pour upon us patience.
They ask for patience first. Not a shield, not a storm to wipe out the enemy, but patience. Why? Because patience is the internal spiritual foundation required to function in a crisis. Think about the anatomy of panic. When a human being faces a terrifying threat, the nervous system floods with adrenaline, the mind races, and logic shuts down.
You just go into fight or flight.
Exactly. Before you can take a single forward step on a battlefield, you have to stabilize your own mind and heart. You have to endure the paralyzing, suffocating weight of fear. If you don't have patience, if you cannot sit with the discomfort of the terror, you panic. And panic leads to rout.
So step one is entirely internal. It is fixing the internal state of the mind and the heart. Step two, make our feet firm.
Once the internal state is stabilized with patience, they ask for physical and tactical grounding. Make our feet firm. This translates the internal calm into external physical action. It means giving us the physical strength, the stamina, and the sheer grit to hold the battle line. Don't let our muscles give out. Don't let the terror make us retreat. Let us stand our ground in the mud, the blood, and the chaos of the fight.
Internal stabilization leading to physical grounding. And then only at the very end of the prayer do we get step three, grant us victory.
They only ask for the end result after asking for the specific tools required to achieve it. This is a profound contrast to how most of us operate. So many times when we face a crisis, a health scare, a financial collapse, a career disaster, we just scream at the universe, "Fix this, make it go away, give me the victory."
Just jump straight to the end.
We demand the end result without asking for the endurance, the patience, or the discipline to survive the process of getting there. This small, dehydrated army understood a fundamental truth. Victory is not a magical escape hatch. It is a byproduct of patience and firm feet, ultimately granted by divine permission.
That reframes how we should view our own struggles entirely, asking for the capacity to endure the trial rather than just begging for a magical extraction from it, a much more resilient way to live. So the prayer is made, the internal resolve is set, and the battle begins, the armies clash, and out of this massive chaos, the text zooms in on a single decisive moment. A humble, relatively unknown young man named Dawud steps forward from the ranks to confront the terrifying armored commander Jalut.
Dawud. It's vital to note his status at this moment. He is not a king yet. He is not a prophet yet. He is not described as having magnificent royal armor or wielding a legendary oversized weapon. The text specifically ignores his physical appearance and his weaponry, which is a very stark contrast to how worldly secular histories are usually written.
Yeah, for sure.
Worldly histories love to detail the specs of the weapons, the shine of the armor, the physical musculature of the hero.
Right, if this were a Greek epic, we'd get 3 pages describing the gold inlay on a shield. But the source text ignores all of that. Instead, it focuses our attention on a massive linguistic shift. And I really want you to elaborate on the mechanics of this because it absolutely blew my mind when I read the translation. The text describes the outcome of this incredibly famous duel in just one sentence. It says, so they defeated them by the permission of Allah, and Dawud killed Jalut.
The phrasing is incredibly deliberate and it carries massive theological weight.
It says, by the permission of Allah, before it mentions the physical act, that Dawud killed Jalut. If this were a movie, the camera focus would be 100% on Dawud, the slow motion shot of him striking the blow. But the text explicitly interrupts the physical action to give ultimate credit to the divine first. Why is that specific grammatical order so important to the narrative?
Because the text is aggressively and intentionally stripping the ultimate credit away from human beings. Imagine if the text simply read Dawud killed Jalut and therefore the army was defeated. The immediate psychological takeaway for the reader and for the people of that time would be that Dawud's physical skill, his aim, his arm strength was the ultimate cause of the victory. People would immediately idolize the man. They would build statues to Dawud's weapon.
They would turn him into a superhero, a demigod, essentially.
Exactly the danger. But the theological framework of this text demands that all ultimate power, all causality belongs exclusively to the Creator. Dawud's physical action was the necessary mechanism, but Allah's permission was the true cause.
I see.
By placing the permission before the action, the text teaches a nuanced balance. Human effort is absolutely necessary. I mean, Dawud still had to find the courage to step up, he still had to aim, he still had to fight, but human effort is never the source of success. It is merely the vessel through which divine permission operates.
So Jalut falls. The invincible, terrifying, heavily armored commander is suddenly dead in the dust, and the psychological effect on his massive imperial army is instantaneous.
It is a total cascading collapse. The enemy's confidence, which was entirely built on their perceived physical superiority and the terror of their leader, shatters completely. The army that looked mathematically invincible suddenly loses all its cohesion and courage, and they are routed. The small, dehydrated, highly disciplined army achieves a mathematically impossible victory.
And this singular victory rockets Dawud into a completely new, unprecedented chapter of his life. He goes from being an unknown, humble youth in the ranks to being bestowed with incredible, unimaginable blessings. The text says Allah gave him kingship wisdom and taught him from what he willed. He eventually becomes one of history's greatest, most revered examples of a just ruler.
And we must pay close attention to the pairing of those first two gifts, kingship and wisdom, authority combined with the internal knowledge to use it justly.
Because leadership without wisdom
is the recipe for tyranny. Every single time. If you possess authority without wisdom, you inevitably become an oppressor, enforcing your will blindly. Conversely, if you possess wisdom without authority, you are just a philosopher shouting into the void, unable to enact real change.
That's a great point.
Dawud was given both. He was granted the hard power to govern a nation and the divine wisdom to judge, fairly resolve complex disputes, and protect the vulnerable in his society.
The source text also goes into beautiful detail about these specific, almost mind-bending miracles that Dawud was granted alongside his kingship. And I want to run through these because they offer such a unique perspective. First, it states that the mountains and the birds would echo his praises of Allah. When he worshipped, the natural world itself joined in his devotion. Second, he was given an incredibly beautiful resonant voice. But the text makes a point to emphasize that this voice wasn't meant for secular entertainment or for people to just fawn over his musical talent. It was a tool meant to increase devotion and sincere worship among the people.
It was a gift utilized for spiritual elevation, not for cultivating a personal celebrity cult.
But the third blessing is what really caught my eye, and it connects back to the theme of the battle. It says he was given the divine knowledge of crafting armor. Specifically, the text talks about making strong, flexible coats of mail that protected people in battle. And I want to offer an analogy for this because it shifts how I view modern life.
Go for it.
We usually look at human technological advancement like metallurgy, forging, steel, crafting complex armor, or even modern AI, and computing as a purely human triumph. We pat ourselves on the back for our ingenuity. We conquered the metal, we wrote the code. But this text views technology through a completely different lens. It frames Dawud's ability to craft advanced armor not as a human invention, but as a direct taught gift allowed by the Creator.
That is a brilliant framework to apply. The text argues that all human knowledge, all skills, all scientific and technological breakthroughs are ultimately divine gifts. We only discover the mechanics of the universe that we are permitted to discover. And notice the specific type of technology Dawud is taught.
Right.
It is armor. It is fundamentally defensive. It is a technology designed to protect life, to preserve the believers, and to allow them to endure, to literally keep their feet firm in battle, rather than being taught how to build a weapon of mass destruction designed purely for aggression and conquest.
That perfectly ties back to the three-part prayer. Make our feet firm. The technology of the armor physically helps them manifest the answer to that prayer. But this raises a massive psychological question for me. Think about the sheer volume of blessings Dawud has. Absolute political power as a king, profound spiritual wisdom as a prophet, literal miracles where mountains are bending to his voice and advanced technological knowledge. Usually, absolute power isolates a leader. The moment they get the crown, the humility vanishes. It seems mathematically impossible for a human being to retain their groundedness after all of that. How did Dawud handle it?
This is perhaps his greatest legacy, even more than the victory over Jalut. Even with ultimate consolidated power, the kind of power that has corrupted almost every other king in history, Dawud remained incredibly humble. He was known for being constantly repentant. He was overflowing with gratitude. He never allowed the power to fill his heart with arrogance, and the mechanism for that humility was memory.
Memory.
Yes, he never forgot the lesson of Jalut, that human strength, human armor, and human power are ultimately illusion.
He knew that all of it was a borrowed trust and it could be taken away in a second.
The text frames authority in a way that is totally alien to modern political thought. It does not frame authority as a privilege to be enjoyed, a VIP pass to indulge your desires, or a shield against accountability. It frames authority entirely as a terrifying heavy trust for which the leader will be judged with intense scrutiny. True honor in this theological framework doesn't radiate from the gold crown on your head. It emanates from your humility and submission before the Creator who allowed you to wear it.
Okay, so what does this all mean? This brings us to the profound conclusion of the source text, which ends with a massive, sweeping philosophical statement. The text zooms all the way out from the granular details of this specific battle in the desert. It pans back to view the entirety of human existence, and it says if Allah did not check one group of people by means of another, the earth would become filled with corruption. So how does this ancient duel relate to the grand overarching arc of human history?
It is proposing a divine mechanism of universal cosmic balances. Think deeply about the nature of human power. Human power, when left unchecked naturally and inevitably, tends toward tyranny. It behaves like a cancer. It expands until it consumes and corrupts everything around it. Jalut is the archetypal example of this. He was an unchecked imperial force spreading corruption, violence, and humiliation across the earth.
It's the old adage, right? Power corrupts and absolute power corrupts. Absolutely.
But the text argues that the Creator, in his infinite mercy, does not allow tyranny to be a permanent state for the earth. The victory of Dawud wasn't just a localized political shift for the tribes of Bani Israel. It was the activation of a universal mechanism of mercy. The text asserts that Allah continuously raises up righteous individuals, often from the most unexpected, humble, and mathematically improbable places, like a small dehydrated army and an unknown youth, to stand against and shatter unchecked oppression.
It is a system of checks and balances, but operating on a divine historical scale rather than just a constitutional one.
It ensures that the earth does not become entirely consumed by darkness and corruption. When one group, one nation, or one ideology becomes too arrogant, too oppressive, they are inevitably checked by another force, often in ways that completely defy all human military calculations and predictive models.
And bringing this directly back to you, the listener, as you go about your week, how does an ancient, dusty battle between kings and warriors translate to the reality of your life today? The core actionable message here is that human calculations are severely limited. We look at the problems in our lives, whether you are facing crushing financial hardship, overwhelming social pressure at school, a massive career obstacle, or a deeply personal internal struggle with your mental health. And we do the math.
Right, we run the numbers.
We look at our resources, we look at the obstacle, and sometimes the math simply says you are vastly outnumbered. Defeat is certain. Give up.
We look at our own personal Jalut standing across the valley of our lives, heavily armored and terrifying, and we feel the exact same paralyzing terror that those soldiers felt thousands of years ago.
But this deep dive tells us that our math is incomplete. It is missing the primary variable. No obstacle in your life, no matter how heavily armored or deeply entrenched, is greater than ultimate divine power. True strength, the kind of strength that changes history, begins the moment you stop relying solely on your own limited, fragile resources and start relying on a wisdom and a power infinitely greater than your own.
It is a potent reminder that the greatest, most enduring victories in our lives are rarely achieved through sheer brute force, endless wealth, or superficial status. They are achieved through the precise, quiet qualities we explored today. Sincere faith, the unwavering patience to endure the internal storm of fear, the discipline to stand firm physically when you want to run, and complete reliance on the Creator.
We have covered a massive thematic arc today. We started by examining the false confidence of the elites who mistakenly thought their emotional grievances guaranteed their courage. We moved through the grueling, counterintuitive crucible of the river, learning that spiritual discipline and impulse control are infinitely more valuable than immediate physical comfort.
It's quite a journey.
We witnessed the impossible victory over Jalut, achieved not through a demand for a magical rescue, but through a structured prayer for patience and firm feet. and we explored the just profoundly humble reign of Dawud, a leader who understood that his immense power was merely a borrowed tool meant for justice, not a vehicle for his own ego.
It truly is a comprehensive masterclass in the realities of human nature, the flaws in how we measure value, and the mechanics of true, enduring success.
And as we wrap up this exploration, I want to leave you, the listener, with a final lingering thought to chew on. Think back to that test at the river. The brilliant thing about that text is that it wasn't just a historical event, it is a recurring fractal pattern in human life. Notice that the army wasn't tested with something inherently evil. They weren't tempted to steal or murder. They were tested with a legitimate, vital, biological need: water. They were legitimately dying of thirst in a desert.
Very true.
But they failed the test because they couldn't moderate their consumption of it. They couldn't delay their gratification in service of a higher command. They let a legitimate need become an ultimate idol that disqualified them from the mission.
They allowed their immediate comfort to blind them to the ultimate objective.
So for you navigating today's world, a world defined by endless streams of information, hyper-consumerism, and the constant screaming demand for instant gratification, what is the river in your life right now? What is that seemingly legitimate thing you are marching toward, thinking it will give you strength, thinking you absolutely need it to survive, when in reality drinking too deeply from it, losing your discipline over it might be the very thing that disqualifies you from your ultimate victory? Take some time to think about that river. Thank you for joining us today, for bringing your curiosity, and for exploring these ancient blueprints with us. Keep questioning your assumptions, keep seeking wisdom in unexpected places, and always keep diving deep.
Until next time.